Hey guys, octacian here, and welcome back to another video where today we're going to be taking a look at some of the brand new features in Minetest and Minetest Game 0.4.16. Minetest 0.4.16 was just released on Saturday, June 3rd, 2017, and although there were a lot more features in the engine as we can see over there, there were still quite a few features in Minetest Game, which we will be covering first. One of the smallest additions of Minetest Game 0.4.16 is the /killme chat command, which in single player allows you to respawn at wherever your spawn point is. A slightly larger feature is the brand new Mies Post Light, which is used typically to grow gardens, but can also be used alongside the Mies lamp. These were added as a result of a new light curve used in Minetest 0.4.16, which, along with changes to the light level of default torches, meant that torches could not be used for farming underground anymore. A slightly more gameplay-directed feature is the brand new tin ore. It seems to be a little bit rarer than steel, and it includes the basic tin ore, tin lump, tin ingot, and tin block. Sadly, there are no tin stairs or tin anything else, just the basic items. Back in Minetest 0.4.15, bushes were added. However, there was one issue with bushes. Whenever you broke a bush, it was gone forever. If you wanted to kind of plant your own bushes, you would have to manually take the leaves and place them as you wished. However, bush saplings have now been added, which will drop randomly from the leaves and on decay. Due to copyright infringement and what could result in possible trademark issues, the Nyan Cat was removed from Minetest Game. However, it can still be accessed as a mod, which you can install if you wish. There will be a link down in the description below for those who would like to do that. Another really cool addition is the Rainforest Litter, which is a custom dirt/grass node which can be found in rainforests, or the jungle. Jumping over to a jungle, we can see that although the texture might look a little bit weird, in the end it is a very nice addition as it adds a bit of peculiarity to jungles, which before this were just They were just normal biomes, except they had different trees. Skeleton keys are now stackable. This means that you don't have to keep the keys in separate stacks. Instead, you can stack as many keys as you want, up to 99, and then when they are bound with a chest, through left-clicking, they are separated into different stacks. Another really cool feature of the brand new skeleton keys is that the keys show their owner in the description. This means that if we hover over a key, we can see that it is a key to single player's locked chest, and single player will be whatever your username is, and if you were to bind it with a door, it would be key to single player's steel door. Along with keys showing information in their description, books also now show their title and the person who wrote them in the description. So a basic book goes from book to Hello World by single player. Now, although this one might seem like a little bit of an odd one, because you'd expect it to be there all along, for whatever reason, there was no sound played whenever you placed a door. That has now been fixed in the latest Minetest 0.4.16. So if we go ahead and break one of these doors and place it down again, we will hear a proper wood sound, and if we break a steel door and place it down, we hear a steel sound. One of the downright coolest features of Minetest Game 0.4.16 is that chests now have animations and sounds. Now, these aren't really animations, as all that happens is the chest model is replaced with another that shows the chest as being open. At some point in the future, I'm really hoping that we'll be able to get smooth animations, but for now, this will do. If we right-click on a normal chest, we can see that the chest will open and close, and also play a sound. If a relatively solid node is placed on top of a chest, then the chest will still play the sound, but it will not show the animation. By far the largest thing added to Minetest Game 0.4.16 is the brand new Sandstone related blocks. Now we have Desert Sandstone blocks, and Desert Sandstone brick, and there is stairs for each one. And the same goes for Silver Sand. We have Silver Sandstone blocks, and Silver Sandstone bricks, and of course stairs for each one. And that is going to be it for the latest features of Minetest Game 0.4.16. However, on the engine side of things, a ton of super cool new features were also added. Now, considering the amount of engine features here, we won't go over each one in depth, and I most definitely won't be able to provide examples for each one. However, I will try to explain many of them as best as I can, and for those that I can't, I would recommend that you go through and search through the pull requests on GitHub, as there is typically a detailed documentation with each one. One of what is, in my opinion, the most important features in Minetest 0.4.16 is Itemstack key value meta storage. Originally, Itemstacks only supported the definition of one single meta field. However, you can now define as many meta fields as you would like, just like you can with nodes. The new key value meta storage has opened the door for per stack descriptions using the metadata by setting the description key. This was used for the books and keys that we saw in the latest Minetest game. 2D sheet animations have been added, which essentially allow you to combine multiple textures into one and then use a pixel offset to grab a specific portion of the texture, and it can also be used for animations. Client-side chat prediction has been removed. This means that after you type a message in chat and it is sent to the server, it does not immediately display on your client. Instead, the server sends that message back to your client to display. Now, this may seem a little bit redundant. However, it is very useful as it opens the door for mods that adjust chat to much more easily send it to all players at once without having to worry about duplication on the client side. One of the downright coolest features in Minetest 0.4.16 is hardware node and item stat coloring. The mod that we're going to be using to demonstrate this is Vanessa E's Colored Wood mod. Originally, this mod would register a huge number of wood nodes in order to get all the different colors. However, it can now register one single wood node and use the dyes to change the color. If we grab some of the dyes here and open up the debug information, we can see that this is a wood underscore block. If we left click it with black dye, it will change to black, and it will still be a wood block. The same goes for blue, brown, and any of the other dyes. A mod metadata API has been implemented, which allows mods to easily store information directly in the world directory without having to write and read a custom file. This API works just like any other metadata API. However, the metadata object is instead returned by minetest.getModStorage. API functions like minetest.settingSet and minetest.settingGet have been replaced by a single global settings object, which works just like the metadata APIs. So this means that you can call settings set, settings get, and all those metadata-like functions right from one single object. Smooth lighting is a feature in Minetest that meant that nodes were smoothly lit, meaning that as the light dissipated, it wouldn't be a blocky dissipation. Instead, it would be gradual, which looks a whole lot nicer if you ask me. Originally, smooth lighting was not supported for unnormal nodes, so this means it wasn't supported for meshes or node boxes. In Minetest 0.4.16, smooth lighting is now supported on nearly every single type of node in the game. A very simple API function has also been added to Minetest 0.4.16, that being minetest.spawnFallingNode, which makes it far easier to spawn a falling node at any particular place in the world. A new player attribute backend has been added, which means that mods no longer have to store per player information in mod storage or physical file. Instead, they can store that information directly on the player itself using a simplified metadata-like API. The old hard-coded progress bar on the loading screen has been replaced with a brand new one that can also be customized through texture packs, and just overall looks way nicer than the hard-coded version. The server list now has some brand new ping indicators, which indicate the ping response time of any particular server. Depending on the response time when trying to ping the server, the ping indicator will show that this connection is more stable in the case of Sky Wars, as we can see here, or less stable, as we can see in the case of other servers, such as Survival and Ethereal. The very well-known sneak glitch has been officially removed from Minetest 0.4.16. However, it has also been replaced with a somewhat supplementary sneak glitch-like feature. But that feature just doesn't really work very well. So a custom physics override has been added, which allows you to override the player physics and either disable the sneak glitch altogether or enable the original sneak glitch. I have honestly waited quite a while for this to happen. But yes, finally the Xbox controller is now supported. This does not mean that Xboxes in and of themselves are supported, it just means that you can now plug an Xbox controller into your computer and use it on Minetest. Soft node overlays are just like normal texture overlays. However, they do not require that the computer add another texture, that being the combination of both textures, to the video memory. Instead, the original node and the overlay is rendered separately. So while this improves performance when it comes to video memory, it does mean that for each node using an overlay, it has to be rendered twice rather than once. Mesh and node box waving has been implemented. This means that tree-like waving is no longer restricted just to normal nodes, but you can also define your own custom meshes or node boxes to use instead. A Clouds API has been added, allowing you to change the height and many other details related to clouds. Sounds played with Minetest.soundplay can now be faded in and out. Node highlighting is now optional. It can be disabled in the Settings tab under Node Highlighting and set to None. This allows you to play with no extra distractions, just with the crosshair in the center. Undersampling allows players with slower computers to get a much higher frames per second, which makes the gameplay overall much more enjoyable. It can be configured under Advanced Settings and Undersampling. It can be set a value anywhere from 0 to 4. Launching the game back up, we can now see that the entire world looks a whole lot more pixelated, which although really isn't that nice for general gameplay, for those of you who have slower computers, it can be a lot nicer than really not being able to play at all. In previous versions, whenever you launched Minetest, it would always be the exact same size unless you configured it manually in Minetest.conf. In the latest Minetest 0.4.16, the screen width and height is saved whenever you close Minetest, which means that the size you leave it at is the size that it will launch at. The pause and change password menus have been updated. When we go to the pause menu, we can see that it now says game paused, gives you information about the single player game, and if you are in multiplayer, it will tell you that, as well as information about the server itself. The controls panel now also shows you your actual controls rather than the default controls. The change password menu has also been updated to include a cancel button, and just in general work a little bit better for the client. Not only that, but there are also some new keys that you can bind, including mute, decrease volume, and increase volume. A /clear inventory chat command has finally been added, which when executed will clear your entire inventory and crafting grid. Name tags now have proper support for color codes. Previously, color codes would cause the name tags to be offset. However, color codes are now removed from the name tag before offset is calculated. Another feature that was changed on the main menu is the tabs are a little bit different now. Instead of 3 tabs to deal with single player, multiplayer, and hosting a server, we now have 2 tabs. One of these is Play Online, which allows you to join a remote multiplayer server. The other tab allows you to either play single player or host your own server. You can host your own server on your local area network by simply selecting a world and checking host server. This now brings up all of the settings that were known from the server tab. Last but not least is what is, in my opinion, the most important feature in all of Minetest 0.4.16. Client-side modding is finally here. For those of you who do not know what this is, client-side modding provides a simplified Lua API that allows mods to run on the client, rather than just on the server. This means that client-side mods can now be created, allowing you to do things much faster than you could otherwise. For example, a form spec to handle kicking, teleporting to, banning, and just in general managing the users on your server. That can now be created as a client-side mod, which will react almost instantly to clicks, rather than having to wait for the data to be sent to the server and then the update to be sent back to your client. There are already several client-side mods that you can download and try out. Take a look at the client-side modding subforum on Minetest on forums.minetest.net, link in the description down below. Anyways guys, I'm going to have to wrap this video up here. There were a lot more features and particularly a ton of bug fixes introduced in Minetest 0.4.15 that I wasn't able to cover. If you'd like to learn more about these features yourself, I would recommend that you browse through the commit history in GitHub or wait for the official changelog to come out. So with that in mind, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a like down below and a comment if you have any suggestions or questions. Also, if you haven't done it already, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.